and welcome to the Wrap Episode 2. This is where we talk all things Zwift for the last week. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russel is next to me, coming out of New Zealand. I'm placed in the US of A. So there's a lot going on this week, and I'm super excited about everything that's happening on the Wrap this week. Obviously, we've got the Tour de France, the Women's AVAC Zwift. We just had something hit the presses like 5 minutes ago. Hardware requirements are in public testing as of August 2nd. We're also going to talk a little bit of teaser about Premier Division has been announced about what is going to be happening with the Premier Racing League this coming Zwift season. Fashion show, as always, with a little bit of a look at what's happening in TDF as well. There. And what else do we got here? I believe that's good. Oh, and there's also a little bit of tech about how you can, I don't know if I should even use this language. How you can, but essentially how you can make the slickest looking Zwift setup you've ever had in order to have some interactivity in your Paincave. Your Paincave and your suffering can coincide with each other. So that's what's coming at you. Episode 2 of the Wrap. If you are watching, we are live on Twitch. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. So go ahead and check us out on all those places. This is also going to be recorded and put out on podcast format. Anna, where's this all going now at this point?
Okay, yes. So it is now live on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. There we go. I think if there are any other podcast platforms that someone listens to that I have not captured in that, let me know and I'll get it up there. I had missed Google. I didn't even know they had podcasts. So that's how green I am to this kind of thing. But got that up there. And yeah, we're good to go. I am a bit of a sweaty mess. I decided to do a team time trial right before the show started. And I'm regretting it slightly because I've left all my sweaty gear sitting right next to me. And for sound, I've closed all the windows and closed all the curtains. And now I feel like I'm sitting in a bit of a sauna. So
no, it's like humid as can be in there. Yeah, gotcha. This is not how to make the Zwift setup. No, just kidding. sharing Zwift setups alongside of the broadcast setups can get a little bit interesting, but that's another topic for another day, obviously, where we teach everybody how to do this broadcast long Zwifting thing. But man, my bike is right here. There's sweaty clothes all over the place around here all the time. And then we also have this full broadcast studio setup. So it definitely can be a challenge, Anna.
Yeah, and I actually had a really good conversation with someone in the community during the week who said, you know, I've always got the eye on fashion. And they were like, what about IRL fashion? What does your IRL fashion look like on the bike? I was like, oh, terrible. Because I use all my old cycling kit, right? I'm like, where's those old bib shorts I haven't worn, or they've got like a hole somewhere, or I'll chuck those on. And where's that kind of old top that I got, or some socks lying around? So
we are so similar.
If you're watching,
like so similar. So Michael Sweet and Whitney Post were like, when they came and visited, they were like, dude, you got to throw that stuff out. They were like, can we get you something? They were like, because like we don't go out a whole lot in real, like, well, I mean, maybe we do when it hits summer or whatever, but like in the winter, who cares? Like we're just hammering away in our Paincave. Like no one's watching. But then I'm going live and like sometimes I get some comments like, Nathan, you know you're live like right now. And that kit, like you look good in game maybe, but I don't know about what you're wearing on stream right now.
So tell me, how did your Wednesday Worlds go?
Oh yeah, so that was pretty awesome actually. You know, Wednesday Worlds, if you guys aren't familiar with what's happening with that, every Wednesday we're showing up 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Currently we're doing the classics. That is going to be a slot that we try to focus in on individual racing and promoting that within the community, just as a heads up. Currently it's on my Twitch channel for the stream of that, but it may be moving to Zwift Community Live soon. We're going to put some polish on it and see where things can move, but it went really well. We had 2 draft team members, actually. Andy Gata as well as Ned Bowen showed up and did some teamwork with me. It was the petite climb. It was a little bit, obviously, out on the France course, so it did have that solid, I don't know, what is that, 3 to 4 minute full gas effort. And so those 2 are a little bit more sprinters. And so they were able to help out with rolling through at the front through the flat sections. And we actually ended up, I think, with the fastest GC time across all of the races that have happened for the classics for this specific Watch the Femmes week of the classics. So that's
Mm.
been really good, and that was kind of the goal, was to make it hard and make sure that the time was low. I think I ended up 4th in the sprint, but there was an amazing move by one of the Electric Spirit Company guys. Did you know that on that course, specifically in France, when you're rolling in after you come down off the Petite Climb, that there's this little cobbled section where you, before you go
Mm.
underneath the
Yeah,
overhang,
under the bridge. Yeah.
if you hit that with an aggression and the pack is watching for the sprint, you can immediately get a gap because of that slowdown of the pack. And if they're not pressing like you press, I think you get an extra 2 to 3 seconds, and he just walked away. It was
Oh,
over.
I wish I'd known that, because I came, well, you came 4th. I came 2nd in my classics race this
Woo,
week.
I got
And
killed.
yeah, it was, I actually set my best 5-minute power ever on that petite QOM.
Whoa.
So I actually went into the race saying,
That's a
well, you
humble
would
brag.
like this.
Anna's just fit.
That's not
She's
even
just letting us know
humble.
she's fit.
Yeah, I'm real fit. But I also attacked about 4 times before the petite QOM. Just these, I kind of wanted to make it a workout as well. So I was like, okay, do 30 seconds, full noise effort, then settle into like 2 minutes, high effort. And then I had some people private messaging me during the race saying, oh, can I come for the next attack? Tell me when you're going to go. I'm like, okay, sure. And it made it fun. But yeah, at the end, so what I've noticed, I'm racing with some dudes now, kind of doing the mixed races. Man, you get I was like, has the draft dynamic changed? I'm like going through Zwift Insider. Is there like a draft update? And I was like, no, I'm just drafting behind tall, big dudes. So I was like, this is actually kind of nice. But the flip side is it comes to a sprint, and I don't have anywhere near those raw watts of those guys. So I yeah, got pipped at the line for second. But anyway, it was really fun. The other one that I'd be tried out was the SISU KQOM sort of mountain challenge. It's 7 weeks, and I dragged my teammate Jen Reel into one really last minute. But that was really fun. It was sort of so you've got points at the finish line, but then you've got points for any of the KOMs during the race, fastest time segment, and it's weighted towards the climbs. So you want to like do really well on the climb. So it was so tactical, because usually in a race, I just push really hard on the climb to break the pack, right? But this time, because it's fastest time segment, I just sat in the draft as long as humanly possible and then sprinted in the last sort of, I don't know, 50 meters. So it was a cool race. It was a different kind of one. I liked it. I like what Sisu's doing there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot about that. I actually saw Katie Loker, one of the top,
Oh, she beat me,
Electric
actually.
Spirit Company. Yeah. So, and she was posting about that. That's funny that right away you're like, yeah, I know Katie. So the she jumped in, it looked like, and was talking about currently leading, I think, in the Sisu race series, but she's a little concerned about the climbing this weekend. I think it heads up a mountain this weekend or something along those lines. So probably
Oh,
gonna be a
yeah,
little bit different.
that's the Tour de France one. Now, I've got a question for you, Nathan. This is on racing etiquette. So I did the same race as Katie. We had Rachel Lieberman there. Great, great threshold racer. She says in, live group chat in the race, okay, who wants to work together and keep the pace really high? And I'm like, I ain't working with you, because I know that you can't really sprint as well, and you've got a great threshold. So if you want to sit on the front and keep the pace high, that's great, because I'll just cruise in behind you and then just spend time attacking you during the race so that I can break your legs with sort of some 30-second efforts. There's no bad blood there. We had great chats about it afterwards, but I don't know. Racing for me is like, if I want to work together in a time trial format, I'll do a team time trial. But if I'm in a race, I don't know. I won't work on the front to keep it pace high. I want to race, like make it weird and crazy and tactical.
Yeah, so I think like the unsaid communication there a little bit is, once you get into a situation that it makes sense to work together, then that communication starts happening. But like the basic communication at a first across the line, or even going for points or whatever that is, I think it's just kind of a part of how the race dynamic communicates to everyone. If we're in a big pack right now, what are we working for? Unless you're going
Yeah.
for a GC thing, I could see that in the classic situation where everybody wants to kind of keep the pace really high. I feel like
No, it's a GC. Yeah, it's a GC one. So I guess
it is
that's
a
why.
GC. So was she trying to keep the pace high in
Yeah.
order to make sure that you finish faster
Yeah.
on GC time against other
Yeah.
races that had already
Yeah.
happened? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I think that would maybe be the only time that there would be motivation for everybody there. I'm with you though. Like, I don't. What are you talking about? Work to keep. What goal do we have together? If there isn't that, I'm like, I don't have any goals with you right now. You want to set up
Yeah.
some goals? And then I'm kind of like, put some chips on the table, get off the front with me, and then we can talk. Like, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
ain't got no chips on the table yet. And everybody like is just gonna be using you. Like, okay, go ahead and work. And I'm a little bit more cutthroat like you. And I do see this, camaraderie thing kind of open up a little bit. In some ways that I'm like, that's cool and all, but that's not really the spirit of racing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go find a Zwift
I'm here to
racing
race.
team.
Yeah.
I'm getting messages
So
here
I
actually
had
from a
a
potential guest, and I'm going to see what happens here because it
Okay,
may
well, I'll
be.
chat a little bit about an interesting race situation I had. It was in the classics race, and I think unfortunately, so someone was in it and thought it was a group ride, and I felt so bad for them because they're saying things like, "Ease up on the front. I'll drop back and help. Are you okay out there off the back?" I'm like, "This is a race.
Wait,
Like, what is
what?
going on?" I know.
They were like,
So
was the communication
they,
not clear somehow? Did they just get
so
confused? Or was there a lot of
I
people doing
think
this?
I think no, it's just one guy, but I think what happened is because the classics had the Tour de France Femme of Zwift takeover this week. I think they thought they were in one of the like the Femme sort of podcast rides, and I felt so bad for this guy because he's saying all these nice things, and we're all just drilling it off the front, going as hard as we can, and just leaving him behind. I was like, what a horrible intro if that was his first sort of Zwift group ride. But yeah, poor guy. So I hope not many people had that situation happen to
Well,
them.
there were
Let me know if
two
you did, because I
different. Well, okay, so I was signing up for yesterday's race, and I did notice there was also a Zwift ride that was around
yeah,
Watch the Femmes, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not
yeah,
differentiated very well." Uh-oh. So
yeah.
maybe
I think that's what
yeah,
happened.
that's probably what happened. So just a little feedback maybe there. The branding around those two might have confused a few people, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna watch the Femmes. Ah, what the heck just happened to me?
What is going on?
Nobody wants to watch anything with me. I'm all alone."
Oh, so on the Femme, Nathan, highlight. What's your highlight of the racing so far?
Freaking hackers. I think that's my highlight. No, I'm just kidding.
What?
So,
No,
I'm just kidding.
the real
The
in
real
real
race.
life. In real life.
Yeah. So just that's you're bragging about your best 5-minute power. I'm trying to pull in a little bit of this virtual cycling. If you didn't know, for those of you that haven't been around from our forever podcast here, last week's episode we talked about a Velogames. It is out in the wild. You can't join it any longer,
Oh,
but we do have a Velogames going on for the wrap, and it's going pretty well. Going pretty well. I'll just put it that way. We'll talk
shut
about
up.
that one. We'll talk about that.
We don't
in a
need to
minute.
have that segment.
But my favorite moment so far is by far Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig winning in fashion. Absolutely amazing.
Oh,
Her stage win and obviously her interview. She's always been one of my favorite cyclists out there. And who doesn't love an interview with her, right? And then she's so emotional over and over and over again in all of her interviews, and then it's like this monumental one, and I think you could see it in her interview if you haven't watched it yet, just how overwhelming with
go.
emotion it was. Obviously it was the perfect altogether, especially with their day before just being totally crap, as she had said in other language, like that. It was a really rough day, and I mean, I have her on my freaking hackers team for the Raps Velogames. So I was obviously really happy as well that she took down the win the next day after I saw her out the back going, "Oh no, there goes one of my GC contenders."
I'd say the highlight for me, it's introducing my my sons and my daughter to it. So we've been watching the men's race, and now every morning I get them up. Well, they get up at like 5 a.m, and we watch it. And they're like, "Are these the men or the women?" I'm like, "It is the women. We are watching the women. Look how good they are. This is amazing." And I'm like going ballistic, and they're going ballistic. And because each day in the men's race, they pick a jersey they want. And this time they're like, "I want that jersey." I'm like, "That's FDJ. That rider's great. She does this." And it's just introducing, which I think is what it's all about, the fact that women are really good at cycling, and we have not had that platform to show, look, we're really good. This isn't sort of amateur hour. We are up there attacking. I'm saying we, I'm not out there, but we female, out there attacking. It is phenomenal racing. Every day has been dramatic, exciting. Mariana Vos is my favorite rider of all time, and seeing her in yellow is amazing. The interview with Ludwig was just phenomenal. The other thing that I think they're bringing in, and I don't know why they don't do it in the men's racing because it is so exciting, is bringing in the race radio, the live race radio into the live feed of the racing. It is unreal. So they had Demi Vollering, Ashley Millman-Passio. Ashley was a bit off the front. They come in and say, hold up, Demi's catching up, hold up, don't push the pace. I'm like, that insight into what they're talking about is probably just one of the best things I've seen in live coverage. It is what I've always wanted to see because I love seeing it in Formula One racing where you can hear what they're saying to the driver, and it makes you feel like you're in there. So a huge kudos to whoever managed to get that in, because I think there's a reason they don't have it in the men's race, but in the women's, huge element added. Love it.
Yeah, that has been really great. And on top of that, with the racing, do you feel like there's just, watching Nimi Adoma just continually demolish, that woman rides with such passion, right?
Yeah.
Just over and over again, takes it to the pack to the point that I think there's been a little bit of feedback of like, all right, make sure you stay consistent. Just stay consistent though. I heard that, and this idea, but I've seen so many risk takers, and I don't know what the difference is, but I just feel like there is a lot more aggression, like when it comes to the racing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because it's only a week, it's a week versus 3 weeks. I'm not sure. So there's not as much like we need to, wait until week 3. You're going to be, this is too much early on. But I don't know, like there just seems to be more dynamic racing happening in the women's racing, Anna.
So I had this exact conversation with someone, and my thoughts on it are this could launch their career. So I feel as though there's this pressure here of like the spotlight is on this event. It's the first ever, well, not first ever. They did have it in 84, but it's the first in a very long time. There is huge buzz around it. I feel like there's this it's make or break. I've got the call up. This is launching my career. I have got to put everything on the line. And when you have, 30 riders with that mentality, I think this is what you're getting is just these all out attacks. I would not be surprised if they're just hitting their best ever power numbers during this race because there's that added element there, right? It's all or nothing here. It's kind of like if you get the call up to go to the Olympic Games. That's why when you see, I know with triathlon at the Olympics, there's people, it's either you're performing 1,000 times better than you have before, or you're not there at all. It's everyone throws all their eggs into one basket and just goes full noise into it. And it's either you succeed or you fail. There's kind of not an in-between. So no one's playing it safe.
Yeah, I think that's a great point actually about putting that show on getting your name out there. And it's also the first time, we've had this in a long time, all the way back in the 80s, there was something similar, but I think that there's a new, what would we say, commitment to this, Anna, wouldn't you say? I think that there's a new commitment,
absolutely.
new reality to this overall that, it culturally, I would say culturally too, not just within the sport of cycling. And so because of that, I think it's just going to take hold so much more. So
I am seeing a comment. Are we talking about virtual racing? No, but we are talking about the biggest race naming sponsor of the virtual platform we are talking about. So there is a tie in there. There's also the tie-in with the fact that a lot of the riders out there you've seen on Zwift. So Ashley Mormon-Passio is the team manager for a team in the Premier Division, Roca Corba. You see Kristen Faulkner, who I've raced with in Zwift. Emily Newsom, who I've raced
Newsom
with
off the
in
front today,
Zwift.
right? Yep.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
on my
So
team
there's
specifically. I put her on my team because I was like,
oh,
she's a Zwifter
love it.
and I need someone around these points to fill it. Yeah, Newsom, shoe in. Awesome, you know?
Yeah. So I think, yes, it's in real life, but the women's racing more than any others has a huge tie into the Zwift community. But maybe we do segue now a little bit into that Premier racing. Nathan, I know you teased it at the beginning, is the race formats and a bit of a sort of strategy doc, I would say, has been sent out to all the team managers. We won't go into huge detail on the sort of strategy doc, although suffice to say, I am very excited. I read it and I'm super pumped for what's going on. I kind of, I'm not going to lie, I felt a little bit sort of wondering what was going to happen. I mean, we saw a whole lot of changes go on at Zwift HQ over the last couple of months. I was like, oh man, is esports still going to be a focus? Are we even going to have a Premier division? What's going on? But it looks as though there's a good focus on it, and I'm excited. Some different formats of racing. A few community members have sent me a few messages around new trainer requirements. So I guess we can talk a little bit about that, and we hopefully will have someone from the Prem Division organization of those events on the show at a later date to answer all the questions as well. But Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the decoupling it. So the first thing, so we can talk really like top level, and then we'll get into the details maybe on another show. But top level, what we're seeing so far is removal from the community completely as far as community ZRL. It is not attached to ZRL any longer, and the Premier Division teams can race across the community now, which I absolutely love that part of it. That there is this separation where the place that these teams grew their team in the community, they can go back into that and have fun with that and continue to grow their racing in that space with the community rather than feeling like they're isolated and removed from the community racing, where like the whole idea of Zwift is that we're getting more people together to race bikes and ride bikes together. So why would we create that removal and giving community teams the opportunity to race with the Premier Division teams to see where they match up and if they want to take that next leap? So I think that there's this cool place within ZRL now that creates so much more opportunity because we're now allowed to mix the top level with everybody else who wants to make their way up.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think decoupling it. We talked about that a bit last season, actually. I know with Martin. I totally agree that they should have been decoupled. It's, I think, different styles of racing. Community across A to D with point segments, different kind of races, larger teams. It's just a bit different. And it's more specialized teams, say in community. Like you'll have someone who's a flat rider, you'll have someone who's a sprinter, you'll have someone who's a climber. So you can kind of like play a lot more tactics. In Prem Division, everyone's a little bit more at that kind of pointy end. So it just ended up, I think, when you had a sort of typical scratch race, just a big blob of people kind of, rolling around Zwift and then sprinting to the line. I know that I raced in them and you commentated them, the Zwift knockouts. And I think they're going more towards that kind of a format of racing, which I just thought was epic. And I know actually Zwift Insider has got something coming up this weekend, the Tiny Race series, which is also similar. So it's that 4 races in an hour kind of format.
Yeah, I got a message from Eric. Hey, you want to do this? I was like, I don't know, man. That looks really hard. But it looks really fun, though, too. Like, it looks really great. But essentially, you just get 4 all-out interval efforts against people racing. But it looks tactical, though, too. It mixes those two things together with the courses he's changed. And Eric has put a lot of thought into this. I could tell just from his messages, I was like, whoa, you've really thought this through about what courses to use. And you're going to get some courses that aren't otherwise really available for this kind of a thing. So really awesome to see what Eric is doing with this.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. And I think, I know from racing the knockouts that it was hard, but it was fun. It was just different, but that's why I'm working on my 5-minute power, because who cares about 20-minute power if you're racing like 10-minute races. Trainer requirements though. Now, this is something that's kind of bubbled up from the community into my inbox. Now, there's a little bit of chit chat about it. Previously, I think, at Prem Division, we were looking at trainer requirements of 2% accuracy. I think now they're looking at around 1%.
I want to make it really clear, real quick, Anna. Two separate things that we're talking about on this podcast. There is a Zwift hardware requirements public test happening as of August 2nd that literally just went out on the forums at what time? At, I don't know, like an hour ago. Okay. And then there is a difference in Premier Division now trainer requirements that are only for Premier Division. That is a totally different thing that's way more stringent. Correct?
Okay. Correct.
Just making sure that that's not confused by anybody out there listening right now about what these are two different things.
Yeah, two different things. So this is like if you go onto your hardware's website, they'll have a claim that their trainer is within X% accuracy. Now this is something that, the people I went back to, because obviously it's hard, because if you've just gone out and bought a trainer that has 1.5% or 2%, you might be like, ooh, well, what do I do now? But there's got to be a point. The biggest hurdle that esport has to get over is the legitimacy of the data that is powering your avatar on screen. And I know myself, having raced and knowing the trainer someone is on in front of me, knowing that it reads like 4% high, it's a little bit demoralizing, and it takes away from the credibility of the sport. So I think the direction that's going, I think it's correct. You need to get the accuracy really high. But I mean, I'd be keen for your thoughts, Nathan. I think eventually you're going to have to get to that more world champs model of everybody on the same trainer.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to head that way. I think that that's like incremental steps, as to getting to that. And, it's definitely a longer process of those who want to get into the sport at that kind of a level. So, I think that small incremental steps toward the most similarity is kind of what they're aiming at. And that's what I see with this, like, not all in on one trainer for Premier, kind of a thing. So I think that that's where they're heading. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, we touched on it real quickly, the new formats. I'm super excited about that. But then the removal side from the ZRL into a different day. What do you think about the day that they're choosing? Fridays.
For my personally, it's unbelievable, because for me, it's a Saturday morning. So I can get up at, I think it's 6 a.m. for me on a Saturday morning, get the racing done by 7:30 in the morning, and then I've got the whole weekend with my family. So perfect for me. I don't have to sort of ask the husband to stay home from work and work from home because I've got a Zwift race that I need to do. I can only do that so many times before I'm like, maybe this doesn't take priority over your own work. I like it. I do like it. I mean, everyone's in different time zones, so everyone's going to have an opinion. I know the people who always get really, I think the hard end is the Aussies, because they're 2 hours behind me. So that's still 4 a.m. racing. I think that's really pretty rough for them. And I really feel for them. And I know they've got so many who come through the Zwift Academy, and they've got great the team Aero. So hopefully, we'll see what happens. But I hope that they can get some teams in there as well, because 4 a.m. is pretty darn early. I do like that difference. So you race. So for me, it's a Wednesday and Saturday. For pretty much everyone else in the world, it's a Tuesday, Friday. That's a good kind of round out to your week, right? You race hard on a Tuesday, have a couple of days off, maybe do some sort of prep rides, bit of easy stuff, maybe a little opener, and then you're hitting it on the Friday, and then you've got your long, easy zone 2 stuff for the weekend, and then hit it again on Tuesday. So it's kind of a nice, I wouldn't be doing many interval sets outside of those 2 races. I'd just be doing those 2 and then hitting like some sweet spot stuff. Nothing at threshold really. But I like it. It's a good little gap.
Rhythm, and I think, so we won't go too deep into this. We want to definitely chat with someone from the organization of this at a future date. But I definitely think that there's an idea of what your Zwift week looks like, as well as your Zwift month might be looking like. And the fact that the men and women are swapping off weeks rather than both of them
Yeah.
going back to back is a really big deal. And we'll just hint at that, leave that out there. But I think that, you know, there you're going to be able to plan your training at this kind of a level around that if you are a Premier Division level rider in a way that you can still get your intervals done on the week off or get some peaking in at certain
Yeah.
specific times, and then still be able to not just feel like you're always having to race Zwift for your intensity. Because if I race too
Yeah.
much, Coach Nathan in my head is going, I can't just use racing. That's for when I bring the scalpel, but the scalpel, it's sharpened somewhere else, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's been a struggle for me as well with how much I want to race Zwift and then just end up
Yeah.
flat in certain areas of my training.
So that the weekly, men's racing and then women's racing the next week, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, teasing that out a little bit is the kind of end game for that is I think they want every team to have a men's component and a women's component. So I'm on Saris, so we've got that already. We've got the Saris women's team, we've got the Saris men's team. Because I think they could go down a route of having events where it's mixed. And if you look at, I mean, I come from a triathlon background. If you look at the mixed team relay, that is so fun to watch because there's all the strategy around who do you send off first? You've got the men going first, who obviously are a bit quicker, but do you shoot that woman off second? And then which guy goes there? And how do you use them based on all the different strengths? So yeah, that's that would add a whole lot more entertainment to it as well. And I think that's what they're going with. I think testing it out with knockouts, doing a bunch of sort of I was involved in some other test events, elimination style, things like that, is it's adding the big entertainment value. So short, sharp races, entertaining parts of the courses, little mix-ups and how the teams look. It's all just creating a bit of entertainment. So I think they're going completely in the right direction. I love it. I'm super excited. I have signed up for the Tiny Race series this weekend, but that's going to be race like 6 for me for this week. And I think we might be a bridge too far. So I might see you on the start line, Nathan.
Well, we'll see if I make it to the start line. I don't know. Well, I gotta, it's not too early for Eric. He's getting himself on the bike at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm like, what are you doing on Friday, bud? What's going on? But anyways, I do see Cy Bradley in the chat. Good to see you, Chris. In everybody else that's hanging on the chat. We are watching your comments. We'll bring them in as they make sense. Great to see everybody hanging out. One last thing on the Premier Division. I'm just gonna read this, and I real quickly, and I love this that they put out there. Our ultimate aim is to develop elite Zwift racing into a self-sustaining, legitimate, globally relevant sport, not just as the newest discipline of cycling, but leading long-term physical virtual proposition across all sports. Absolutely loving that, and we'll leave that right there, I think, as an awesome vision statement that's coming from Zwift about what they want to do with this. And I do see feet on the ground with that. I do see action toward that. There is a theme starting right around this most recent kind of, it feels like kicking the pants for Zwift a little bit, but like they need to get moving on some things. And I just feel like action is happening. Like a lot of things that have been asked for from the community and responses from Zwift have been really, really quick in some ways. And then just moving forward with it and putting those visions and those aims into practice. You know what I mean? I don't feel like the big ZOON is quite as much on my lips as of late, Leanna.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm always excited for new worlds and new tarmac and all of that stuff. But I also
true.
I do like that, but I kind of hope that some of that stuff will come up as we head into what I call the Zwift season, which is the Northern Hemisphere winter. But I think on the racing side of things, also, I guess touching on it, what I'm loving is what's coming up from the community as well, especially looking at Zwift Insider, Dirt, Herd, SISU. All these groups are kind of using like this quote unquote off season as a bit of a sandpit to just try a whole bunch of different formats and see what sticks. And this has been really fun for me, just jumping on and being like, yes, that's cool. That looks good. And because I know ZR, when that comes into play, it's sort of, that's what everyone's doing. This off-season racing has been really fun. I got to say, I love it. So kudos to those race organizers who have been putting those all together, because I know it's not easy organizing events and they've been pretty unique and innovative.
100%. That's one thing. I mean, that's where this all came from to begin with. Kiss Racing Series, the reality of all of the organizers. I did see Martin Dortvik in chat just a minute ago, obviously with SZR, and then we have the Herd and SISU suddenly jumping on the scene. Obviously WTRL with what they do with ZRL. I mean, all of this was a community effort to begin with, and being able to see what they are doing in this summer winter down in the southern hemisphere. But this off season for Zwift, a lot of testing going on, and we'll see what this brings out of the community to really stick and have some long-term impacts on how we race on Zwift in order to make this a worldwide sport. So the community, obviously a huge part of that. So you want to jump into this hardware requirements announcement real quickly here? Do you want to jump
how about
that?
you talk through that, let us know when all the test events are and how people can get involved.
Yeah, so real quickly here, I'm just going to bring up the forums, everybody, and we'll take a look at this. Zwift hardware requirements public test 2nd through the 9th of August. This is coming in from Flint McInnes himself. He was a guest a couple of weeks back on the WTRL TTT. They're going to be hosting public events open to anyone from August 2nd to the 9th. You can find them all with the title Zwift FutureWorks Test Hardware Type Only, or you can use the tag, which is linked over on the forums. Go and head on over to the forums.zwift.com to find this kind of stuff. If you don't use this already and you want to direct access to the world of Zwift employees, this is what they watch. You go over there, you give feedback in this spot, and this is where you'll be able to find it. What's happening here is you have these new rules. No rules. The event is open to all hardware types, as you can see here. Then there's another one, smart trainers and power meters only allowed. There's another category, so smart trainers, power meters, and heart rate monitors only allowed. Then there is Z Power Classic Trainer only allowed. And then there is Z Power and heart rate monitor only allowed. So overall, there are 5 possible event configurations. That is the main part of this. 5 event configurations that will limit who can actually access the events. Anna, that has been asked for since 2015. Thoughts on that? I mean, that's like, whoa, we're doing this. Okay. And what do you think about, I mean, this is kind of like dipping your toes in the water, though, right? Isn't that kind of how you feel about it? But I mean, I think it's a good place to start. What do you think?
Yeah, so we actually talked about this ages ago when we were commentating on a race together. And I mean, I was in a race with a Z Power rider the other day.
Hold on 1 second. You're going to be using a term that the question in chat that some people don't even know what you're saying. Z Power.
Oh,
you want to give an explanation of Z Power?
Oh, Z Power. Okay, well, I mean, my layman term is it's not on a power meter or a smart trainer. It's a classic trainer where they've used a speed sensor to transmit an estimated power. And from what I know, because I did use Z Power when I very first started on Zwift, because I only had a classic trainer, is that it massively overreads usually. And also, I'm pretty sure you're maxed out on watts, so you can't really sprint. So I think there's a point where it maxes. So you're kind of maxed out. It's a very
And some people just sit at 400 like all day because that's just like it's just spinning like crazy.
Exactly. And I think you can see it in a race. So if you're, well, anytime you're on Zwift, if you look at everyone's names on the right-hand side of the screen, there'll be a little lightning bolt if they've got a power meter or a smart trainer. And if there's no lightning bolt, they're on this Z Power. They're called Power Rangers. Yep. Cy Bradley, that'd be right.
Cy's been around for a long time. I mean, if he knows the Go-Go Power Rangers thing, man, that's awesome that he brings that up.
I know. So the part that it's really hard, right? Because a lot of people, like myself, I was on Z Power at the beginning because that's all I had. I had a speed sensor. I was like, let's give this a go. And I think it's a really harsh intro to Zwift racing. If you're brand new to the platform, you jump in a race and suddenly you're getting slammed by people in the chat saying, it's a Z Power racer. It's ZP. It's a Power Ranger. Don't worry about them. Get off the front. You know, it's a very harsh intro. So I think for that reason, it's nice because it's a softer intro for that group of people, mostly who are beginners, I would say. to just have a race experience with other people on this, and then they can transition into the power meter or the smart trainers, which are more expensive. So I think from that regard, it's really good. I think it's stepping in the right direction. I'll be interested to see how the testing goes. I think, to be honest, this is going to suit the male racing a lot more, because in the female racing, I just don't think the fields are big enough to be splitting into 5 different categories. You'll just end up, I mean, if you've only got 10 on a start line and you've got 5 categories, it's going to be weird racing. And I'd actually prefer to just race everyone and accept there's some discrepancies in data.
On that front, up front right away, my first concern is, are there enough people even within the men's racing to fill that many different categorizations? And I wonder if these tests partially are data collection on how many racers they will get in each type of those. What will people do? They're going to be looking for behavior, right? Well, what are people actually going to do? And is this going to be worth the time to put these events together in this configuration? So finding the configurations that get participation, I would think, is part of what this test is. So tell all your friends, if they're on Z-Power, like, hey, you got a place to go right now. So you're not the auto bus in our race. You're not getting yelled at in our race. And you're not getting flagged by 10 people in our race. Just getting it out there so that we can see. Well, I think so Zwift can see, not though I can see. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. But I have a feeling this is partially what kind of participation numbers are we going to see? What kind of feedback? Who's going to be angry? Who's going to be happy? And how this makes everybody kind of feel in this situation, and then move forward after they got that data grab, because it shuts down after August 9th, and then they see and back to the drawing board, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at it really basically, and if I was going to provide feedback right now, I'd say almost you don't need 5 categories. I'd say you kind of need 2. You just need Z power and power.
Yeah.
Heart rate
otherwise, it's going to get a little. Well, I wonder if they're running them though. We have to look and see. We have to actually know what they're doing at the timings. I would think would have put this together where, it'll be like there's not going to be 5 different ones all at once, right? It'll be like this one, and then maybe tomorrow it'll be like this category and this category. And I think the main one they'll do is what you just said. I would hope that it would be just like this or that at around the same times. So,
because I don't know heart rate doesn't really bother me that much. You've got to really, really want to cheat if you're cheating by not showing your heart rate. I mean, you've got to be really motivated for that. And I mean, if that's the path you want to go down, like whatever, just off you go. It's a weird life choice. So I'm not really phased about heart rate so much.
Weird life choices. We're not going to call it WLC because that's an actual team on Zwift. But weird life choices. That's like a new acronym. But now we already have Wahoo Lacole, so I can't. Those don't match up too well. But I want to be like, yeah, that's another WLC. Don't worry about it. But that don't work now in any way whatsoever. Sorry, WLC. Weird life choices. Oh my God.
Weird life choices. There we go. Well, anyway, I think we've covered that one. Do you want to? Should we hit some fashion? Nathan?
Fashion time. All right, here we go. We are still working on getting the in-game look to make this look super. Should I use the word sexy? But for now, we'll just grab the images here. And this is a great one. I absolutely love what you've picked up on here. And it's great because we've seen it on the front of a Pro Peloton a whole lot as of this past week. Why don't you go ahead and tell me about this here,
exactly.
Anna?
Yeah, and it is actually in-game. I actually took some photos of me in it because they had a Canyon SRAM. It is the Canyon SRAM jersey. There we go. That's actually from Ellie Kimber, a teammate of mine on NZ Bro. They had some group rides, which was so rad. You had team members out there. Kesha Niwadomo was leading it. They were doing intervals and chatting to everyone. It was phenomenal. So awesome job from Canyon SRAM getting in amongst it, having some warm-up rides with the community, and they were pumping. And this kit is awesome. So in real life,
are people
it
able
looks
to
great.
get a hold? One of the main things we do want to, highlight about the kits that we do throw out there is how or if they are available or if these are exclusive any longer. I think this one is exclusive though to those rides, aren't they?
Yeah, exclusive to the rides. However, if you do want to actually get this kit, you can buy it. And I have seriously been considering that because the arrows, it was designed. So it's a very well designed kit. It's got arrows kind of going everywhere. It was sort of themed like weather. So you can sort of see weather patterns. There's clouds and the arrows indicate wind all moving around. It just looks awesome. It's got sort of these highlighter green triangles on the tops of the sleeves. So when you're down in the drops, it looks really cool because you just see these sort of green triangles. It just looks fast. So yeah, Canyon Tram taking a bit of a Tour de France Femme avec Zwift theme this week, but that is a
And
very,
you would
very
match it
cool jersey
with,
in game.
and you would
Oh
match it with the
well,
Focus.
yeah. So this is the garage bike choice of the week, and this is the Focus. Now I've got to be. This is a really specific one. Where is the Focus Zalco Max 2020 Perry Edition? So it's a somewhat slippery frame, level 8 unlock, so very available. But I actually went and got it because I was like, yes, I want this color. This looks awesome. Never got the color, and then I had to Google what was going on, and you had to do a while back a Perry 3-stage challenge to get the epic paint job. So
Just to get that
I've got the
color.
bike. Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
again,
I
I'm
want to
kind of
know if you're
highlighting
watching
like,
this, if you are watching this and you have that specific paint job that you have access to, I want to know in the comments. Like either live now or afterwards, or let us know on socials if you're listening to this on the podcast. Because if you have what's this specific paint scheme that's special to this Focus, that would be absolutely awesome to know how many people out there that are a part of this community are able to grab this, because this is kind of the exclusive side of our whole Gucci talk.
yeah, it's so exclusive. I don't even have it. And I try and get everything. So I am very disappointed I don't have this. But it looks fly. It's really good. I've seen the bike a few times racing, so it's good on the flats. You can see it paired there with some DT Swiss deep dish wheels, but just looks pretty good. Pair it with that Canyon SRAM, both very, very hard to come by. So just try and get on that pro team, and then you'll get the jersey in game. Because I know Ella Harris has that, and she rides it with pride. So
Yeah, and that, on the gaming side of things, Anna, this is a great thing that you're bringing into with this whole fashion show side of it, because it started as a joke on a lot of our ZRLs. then it just turned into this thing because you were commentating and all of the teams started going, wait a second, we want to make sure we're looking good because Anna's giving us ratings. And now you've tapped into something in gaming though, because I mean, I would play World of Warcraft and ride my bike for 3 to 5 hours at a time in order to distract myself prior to Zwift racing. And then I could actually ride my bike in a game. Right. And so I was a part of these massive multiplayer online worlds where having some sort of in-game little fashion piece, it was significant. Like it showed off that you accomplished something huge if you had like a bronze dragon from some sort of, I don't know, thing 2 years ago that that person grinded so hard with 60 other people, got them all together in order to grab this thing. Like that is a massive effort, right? And having those kinds of signifying icons in game that you can attach to your avatar, you're bringing that alive, and I absolutely love what you're doing. And that's exactly, it sounds like, what this Focus is, because you don't even have this thing.
I know. It's so depressing. I don't have it. I mean, I think I really liked what ZRL did a while back, where the teams who won would get this special helmet. What I think is this could be expanded. What I'd love to see is sort of say an aggressive rider, and then they just get this jersey that no one else has, and then they've just got it forever, and you can wear it, say, in a race, and people go, ooh, I know that rider is like full noise.
So like putting red numbers on. It's like red numbers, but they get
yeah.
to keep yeah. That'd be really great.
Yeah. See, that would kind of be cool. The helmets are great, but because the ZRL is massive, it ends up with just all these people, wearing helmets. Whereas I think, the jersey, or like a little custom paint job where you've got sort of red stripes on your bike or something. I mean, I'm sure this is extremely hard to actually pull off in the game, but that's I like it. That'd be great. I think it would be cool.
Well, on fashion and on the way that you're making things look, we do have another feature here all about making sure things. I can't believe we are so cyclists. Are we really vain? Are we like, are we just really, I don't know. Like, oh my gosh, we just are all about how it looks. That's for sure. But there is this awesome enhance your Zwift sessions with Philips Hue Smart Lighting from Eric Schlange. He did this actually all the way back in December 3rd of 2019, but I'm not sure a whole lot of people know about how this can interact with your Zwift setup. Do you want to talk me through this and I'll start showing some of the images and stuff here?
Yeah, so this is something I've wanted to do in my Paincave for ages, and I haven't done it yet because we just kind of got it done, and I need to build up the courage to be able to kind of figure out how to do it. But I think this can add a whole lot to your Zwift experience. So it's adding this hue lighting, which a lot of people just have behind their regular TVs. But the cool thing about it is it will change. And this is kind of what the video is showing. But for those listening, if you're, say, going around Volcano where it's sort of a lot of oranges, the colors change to orange. If you're going into sort of a dreary day in London, it'll go to like a dark gray color. If it's going around jungle, it'll go to sort of like a green color. So it adds an extra element. And when you see a lot of streamers on Zwift, some of them have got these party setups with this hue lighting, and it looks amazing. Now, I wouldn't use it all the time because heaps of lighting when you're trying to race could be a little bit distracting. But, imagine this going around Neokyo. It would just be this kind of, feast for the eyes. While it would be that immersive experience. So I'm going to be sort of setting that up before we start the Zwift season coming up in a couple of months to try and just nail that and make it look really good. But is it John Mayfield? I mean, he took it next level. And I know that Eric Schlange talked about whether, the general pleb could get their hands on this, but he linked it with his Zwift data. So the lights would change color if he got a ride on. They would flash. If you got some XP points, they would flash. If you hit a segment, it would change a color. So I think there's some really cool stuff you could do with some scripting. And I kind of put it in because if there's any really good tech hack people out there to kind of figure out how to do that, that would be awesome. Because I would love, you get your blue ride on and then suddenly your screen just flashes blue around your TV. That would look really cool. Or you drop a power up and it kind of does like a bright red kind of for the length of time of the power up. So I know a lot of people are getting into streaming, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to make their setups look really good on screen. This is one of those ways. So yeah, Philips LED hue lighting looks pretty rad in my opinion.
Looks awesome. You can definitely head on over to Zwift Insider. There is a link. We can go ahead and throw that in the chats as well. Zwiftinsider.com/hue-smart-lights. If you're listening to this on the podcast, zwiftinsider.com/hue-smart-lights, or go ahead and just search over on their website for the Hue Smart Lights. It actually come up right away. He gives a really good explanation actually all the way through about how to set it up and everything. So great job, obviously, to Zwift Insider for what they throw together there. We were going to have Kate Verono on from Zwift, but they're in France and they're, on the ground, there's a lot going on over there. Obviously, she is working night and day. If you didn't know who Kate is, she's been with Zwift actually all the way back. We'll give a little bit of a teaser here about that. You can see myself and Kate actually. This is at some of the old KOM challenges that we did back in the day. We're going to see if we can get her on for next week to talk about the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. And this is her now, obviously, over at the Tour de France, and one of the main persons behind making all of this happen. So that's a little bit of a tease forward to chat about women's cycling, and maybe after, like, as a wrap up to our chatting about the Tour de France avec Zwift, Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, that we would have that next week in order to kind of be like, hey, what's happening now and where's this going? And to look towards everything women's cycling heading into the Zwift season, Anna. But
and she could probably give a little bit of insight as well, because I know she works on the academies. So with academies that usually kind of roll out September time, September, October, she may be able to tease a little bit about what's happening with those coming up too, because I know I love them. It's a great way to get fit.
I got a message 2 days ago actually about academy stuff. So that's actually a great idea, Anna. I absolutely love that tie in there. That's gonna work out great. So I think that's about it for us this week. What's happening this weekend? Obviously, it sounds like you're doing the mini races.
Well,
Perhaps.
yeah, I mean, I just saw, I give everyone a nickname, so I'm going to call her Miss 14. Katie Loca from Electric Spirit, Miss 14, who
Why do you call her Miss 14?
slammed me.
Why is she Miss 14?
14 watts, 14 watts a kg. Absolutely slammed me in the sprint on the Champs-Elysees for the SISU Women's Tour racing. Killed me. So Miss 14, she's just coming to chat to say that she will be racing the tiny races from a Zwift Insider, which makes me a little bit nervous now because I don't think these legs are going to be sprinting in the weekend, but it'll be a bit of fun. So I think I'll do those. I've got my in real life triathlon stuff going on. I've got an in real life duathlon coming up, so I really better get out there and get into some hard running efforts. But yeah, did the TTT this morning and my legs are cooked. So I'm going to need a day off the bike tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, TTT is always. What course were you on today? Which one was the course today?
Do you know what, Nathan? I was going to say this. I actually have no idea. I had one guy and I was like, I go after this guy.
Was it
and
that
he's got
hard? You were just head down? Like
it's just head down. I was like, pink cap, stare, my turn, up out of the saddle. My turns on the front were at like 5.8 watts a kg. I mean, this was no joke. And then, so I knew there was the volcano was in there. That was about it.
I'm looking right now. Volcano Flat, 3 laps, 37.55 kilometers. It looks like
it was long.
Oh my goodness. It looks like I don't know what the results are currently out there, but you can obviously head over to WTRL.racing to see that. I'd have to sign in and do all that stuff. But yeah, sounds like it was a tough race for you out there today because you didn't even know what course you were on. But
yeah, it was head down and just going for it on this one. It was hard. But what about you, Nathan? What you got? Some mountain biking this weekend?
This is a weekend off. I did get an invite to do Wausau 24, which is a 24-hour team or individual event. I've never my longest individual I think is like 6 to 8 hours. I've never been into the 12 to 24 solo stuff. I really like high intensity, punchy 2-hour cross country races, and anything over that I go unless I'm on a team and I can just go hard for 20 minutes or 30 minutes over and over and over again, and then that's fun. But so I'm not doing the Wausau 24. I'm just going to train, I think, this weekend because I've got some pretty big races coming up in August through the fall that I'm really focusing in on. There's a thing called the Triple Crown in the Midwest. Probably heard me talk about it before. And the Triple Crown in the Midwest is the Ore to Shore, the Schwamagon 40, as well as Iceman. And so those 3 are kind of the big Midwest mountain bike races. And only a few individuals in the history of all mountain biking in the U.S. have ever won the Triple Crown all in 1 year. I'm not saying that, great if I can be anywhere near to that, but like the Grand Prix that Lifetime announced is going to Schwamagon. Okay, so like the level at Schwamagon this year is going to be insane. That's in September. Ore to Shore is always a really tough one. I think Alexei Vermilion had won that the last couple of years. Some local legends have won it in the past, obviously. And then obviously Iceman, which always has Olympians showing up. And it's kind of the biggest mountain bike race in the U.S. at the end of the season. It's always the first Saturday in November. So it could be snow. It could be in the 60s. You never know. It's kind of like a jump. So I say all that about this weekend because it's kind of one of those weekends for me where it's like, all right, this is one of the weekends where I don't have a race. I don't have to do anything but maybe just focus in on getting that sharpening the scalpel I talked about earlier in the broadcast/podcast because I have been doing a ton of racing and I just got to make sure I stay sharp in all the areas that sometimes racing can make you dull. So yeah, that's so this weekend, intervals, checking out my peak powers. Sometimes I use the KISS 100. It's a little bit up in the air, but if I do the KISS 100, my plan is to treat it like Wednesday Worlds and just be off the front in short efforts, like over, and just make everybody really mad at me. That's the only way I'm going to get the efforts that I need rather than just sit in roadie style.
So, If you like the sound of that, go join Nathan on his Wednesday Worlds. I've just seen Cy Bradley's going to come join you for that sweat fest. So just prepare for lots of intervals off the front. I'm sure that sounds like a blast to not many people. But yeah, I would say go join. It's a blast to watch, that's for sure.
Wait, we didn't talk though about this Velogames. Are you avoiding the Velogames conversation?
Oh,
Is that what's happening
that's
here? Oh yeah, she says that.
Okay,
Right.
wait till we get in the mountains. Wait till we get in the mountains. Pull it up. Pull it up. Let's see how are we going in our virtual
What is
Tour de
this?
France fam.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
Nathan's on
freaking
top.
hackers at the top. Do you want to tell them about our little conversation over text? Like I was literally getting this set up with like 2 hours to close, and I was like, then I was doing so much like background of check and all. It's freaking hackers. It's a perfect name because I just went off of all of the research I could possibly do on all of these riders and put this team together. A little bit of like heart pull towards ones that I've been watching over time or have familiarity with. But Anna, what's going on? 5th place? I thought your name was bossing it. What's going on here?
Well, Voss is bossing it. Voss is
Okay,
bossing
okay.
it. She's in the yellow. Now, wait until we get into the mountains. I've got a heavily weighted mountain team, and this tour is heavily weighted to the mountains. So you just take all your gloating now, Nathan, because next week I will be gloating as I move ahead of your sprinters.
Wait a second. I think I've got Garcia. I've got there's not sprinters. I've got Voss. I've got Niewiadoma. I've got Utrip, Ludwig. I don't know. We'll see, Anna. We'll see.
Have you hacked your team so that you've just had like top riders? Is that what you mean by Zwift and freaking hackers?
I did the math. I did all the math and found all of the perfect like fits that I could, as well as like there was a little bit of crystal balling going on of like, what do you really feel about where this rider's at? I was up on like cycling stats, looking at their past like Giro d'Anna. I was looking at their world tour, what they do in the classics. I mean, I got, if you get me into a competition, I'm either like 100%, I'm all or nothing. It's like I'm all or that's 100 or nothing. So you
bring it on. I'll be there next week. I'll be at the top next week.
All right, sounds good. Chris is in chat and a few others, 3rd place. We do have a few other community members out there that are in there. Really appreciate everybody that's jumped in for that competition. It's been a lot of fun to follow along. Make sure to tag us on socials and interact in the chat as well as in the comments about how you're doing in our Velogames, because that's been a lot of fun to follow along with and interact around the Women's Tour de France right now. Well, Anna, it's been a lot of fun. I think you got to walk a kid to school.
Yes, it's his first week at school and we're walking in. So I'm leaving in about 5 minutes. I did a TTT, got on here 5 minutes later, and then 5 minutes later walk into school. And I know you've got, so your kids coming in and out, so you've got a going on today.
Yeah, the boys are having their game time right now. So, all right, everybody, this is going to be available. Obviously, we are live right now for the VOD side of this on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, as well as Facebook. But you can also find this in pretty much anywhere that you can find a podcast. The Wrap, we'll try and throw some links as well underneath the YouTube video for that. And we will see you guys next week for episode number 3. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll also throw links into the YouTube to find us on our socials. So if you want to take us up on anything related to the Wrap, as well as to find us over on our Twitch streams. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you next week for episode 3. As always, right on.